If you are looking for clean, wholesome romance versions of the Bridgerton series, this video is for you. In this video, I found a book that resembled each season of the Bridgerton series, just a clean, wholesome version of the corresponding season, and presented them in order. So the first book that I found closely resembles season 1 of Bridgerton, which is Daphne and Simon. Second book is corresponding to season 2 of Bridgerton, which is Anthony and Kate. And third book corresponds with season 3, the newest season of Bridgerton, which is Penelope and Colin's love story. I hope that makes more sense. First book I'm going to be recommending is Rescuing Lord Inglewood, a Regency romance by Sally Britton. This was such a very interesting book because it so closely resembled the relationship between Daphne and Anthony with the falling in love with the best friend's brothers trope. Esther is the younger sister of Isaac, who is the best friend of Silas. In season 1 of Bridgerton, Daphne is the younger sister of Anthony, who is the best friend of Simon. So you get that mirror there. The story between Daphne and Simon really begins after they are found in compromising positions together, essentially found in places where single people are typically not supposed to be together, and if they're found together, they have to get married. But the main girl in this book is Esther, and the main man in this book is Silas, and their dynamic is super different just because majority of this book is them after they are forced to get married. In the original season 1 of Bridgerton, the same happens with Esther and Silas in this first book, and we see very quickly how immature Esther is, because the situations that Esther ends up in with Silas are a lot different than the situations that Daphne and Simon get in. That's all I'm gonna say. This relationship though is super similar in regards to how quickly they take to each other and then the banter that's present, but it seems like Silas is a lot more understanding of Esther, and there's not a layer of trauma that Silas has when it comes to falling in love. He was the only child, so growing up he always thought super fondly of Isaac and Esther and their familial dynamic, and loved playing with their group of friends that they have growing up. There's more of a found family feel to this book, but I feel like it's more of a YA book because there's just a lot more lightheartedness to it, and it doesn't explore super deep tropes other than just what it feels like to always be left out and what it also feels like to not have a family to call your own. I feel like this book is just super heartwarming, and it's a lot more wholesome in almost every single way compared to season 1 of Bridgerton, but the relationship between the main characters are super similar to the relationship of Daphne and Simon in the first season of Bridgerton. And I also will mention there's lots of other relationships that are budding within this book that you get to take a peek at, which makes it a lot more interesting to read. And there's a plot twist at the end, which is it had me gagged. That's all I will say. It had me gagged. That's all I will say. But I really enjoyed this book. I feel like it's very different from the first season of Bridgerton, plot-wise, relationship-wise, between the dynamic of Daphne and Simon. Esther and Silas's dynamic is super similar in my opinion. Y'all let me know if you read it though. And the statuses that are present in this book are Earl and Countess. So Silas is an Earl, which makes Esther become a Countess after they are married by convenience. So the second book I found, which mirrored super closely to the second season of Bridgerton, which explores the relationship between Kate and Anthony, is Reforming the Duke by Laura Beers. I couldn't find a free audio version of this book, but it was 200 pages compared to the first book recommendation, which was a lot longer. I started reading it and I was like, hold up, because the Holy Spirit was helping me, because these main characters are so similar to Kate and Anthony. It's literally insane. So this book follows Amelia and Edmund, which I thought was cool because Edmund is the name of the father in the Bridgerton series. Amelia is super close in personality to Kate in the sense that she loves riding horses. She's super independent and super outspoken. Their banter is right neck and neck with Kate and Anthony's banter, because they were at each other's necks just because Kate and Anthony were always super honest with each other and never spared each other's feelings. And I feel like Edmund and Amelia did the same exact thing in this book. I genuinely enjoyed this. This book felt a lot closer in tone to season 2 of Bridgerton, with just the heaviness in it. There's trigger warnings of death and just loss and mourning, which I feel are super close to the trigger warnings in season 2 of Bridgerton, which is death and mourning as well. So I feel it's super close in tone as well as relationships that are present. On family trope in this, and there's also a mistaken identity trope, because Amelia in this book is not the sister of anybody who's trying to get paired off for the season. She's actually born into a family of matchmakers and is hired to find a match for Edmund, and you'll get to see what happens, whether she finds a match for Edmund or not. But mistaken identity trope there where Edmund doesn't really know who Amelia is, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting to me, but I still feel like nonetheless, despite that being like a very big part of the plot, that Kate is the sister of Edwina who falls in love with Antony, there's not much of a difference in terms of the plot. I don't know, like there is, but there's not. The tone is just so similar. It's like if you squint, they're the same a little bit. The way Antony and Kate are there for each other is very similar to the way Amelia and Edmund are. I feel like Amelia and Edmund are just a lot less fiery and a lot less toxic, which I also feel like contributes to the wholesome version of season 2 of Bridgerton and the purpose of this video. So I would say if you have heard a lot about the dynamic between Kate and Antony, or if you watch season 2 of Bridgerton and they're your favorite couple, to really recommend this book and read it, because I personally really enjoyed it. Season 2 was my favorite. I felt like their dynamic was super similar in Reforming the Duke, just because of how they interact and just the heaviness and the tone of it. It's just super similar. The status in this book also is Duke and Duchess, if you were wondering. Okay, so the last book, which mirrors season 3, which is the newest season of Bridgerton and explores the relationship between Penelope and Colin, is Loving Lord Eagleton, also by Laura Beers. This follows the couple of Hannah and Martin, and when I tell you this banter in this plot was so close to Penelope and Colin's, I was like, wait, God is really on my side. So it has literally almost the same exact trope of Penelope and Colin. Hannah and Martin have the same trope. Hannah is best friends with Martin's little sister, Marianne, and so she grew up with him and was able to experience him in all forms of life. And like Colin viewed Penelope as a little sister, Martin viewed Hannah as a little sister, and so things started changing up. The dynamic is super similar. I feel like this is the most spot on out of all the books that I found closest to the current seasons of Bridgerton. The answer was super spot on for the trope, and also I feel like they said some lines that were said within the first 2 seasons of Bridgerton between Penelope and Colin, because there's quite a bit of build-up that happens between Penelope and Colin in the actual Bridgerton series, where you get to know that like Penelope is peeped game that Colin doesn't like her, and you get to peep game that Hannah knows that Martin doesn't like her. So there's that similarity as well. It's also a lot healthier in terms with Hannah's relationship with Marianne, Martin's little sister. Penelope and Eloise's relationship is very tumultuous, so I feel like it's not that healthy, but in this book it's a lot healthier. We've got a lot of familial lore with Martin's family, which is very interesting, and you kind of just root for other people in the book other than just Hannah and Martin, which I always enjoy when there's another couple involved that I get to grow and learn and root for as well. And the ending was so well done. I feel like this was the best ending out of all the books. I couldn't find an audiobook for it, but it was also 200 pages, super quick and easy read. Read it in a day because the banter was so good. It moved so quickly. It was just so good. So the status in this book are also Earl and Countess. I would also like to recommend you to read any of the other books in the series by the authors that I recommended. All the books that I recommended today are a part of a series, so if you don't particularly like or want to read books close to Bridgerton but want to read clean Regency romances, I 10 out of 10 recommend these 2 authors. And I could not get into a lot of the Regency books and found myself with the same authors over and over again, so I really would recommend the 2 authors that I mentioned today. If you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys find some solace in reading a clean, wholesome romance that just is not overwhelmed with spice, because I'm always trying to look for different substitutions with no spice for a typically spicy book. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you have any other book recommendations of clean Regency romances that you would just like to recommend in general. Remember to always protect your peace. Have a great day!